Hello everybody, back again. I've been trying to get a video out every week and a couple shorts here and there just to try to get the channel going better and to boost the channel a little bit. But last week, because of poor planning and poor weather, I didn't get a video done. Today, I'm having a little bit of a deviation of what I wanted to do. I'm in Graterford, Pennsylvania, right at a portion where the Perkiomen Railroad once came through. I wanted to do the Graterford station originally, but even though I know this area well and I've been through here, I come through here often, I guess I underestimated the traffic and the noise and the people on this main drag here, even close to 7 o'clock at night. And just too much going on to try to film a video. So I'm down here at the Graterford Prison Siding Bridge, Trestle Bridge. Someone will correct me. Graterford actually was originally founded in 1756 by Jacob Creeder. And a lot of people will say Graterford, some say Graterford, and some will like to correct you. Well, it was originally called Graterford. But for some reason in the 1950s, almost 200 years later, the Postal Service decided to abbreviate it and make it Graterford. For some reason. Took 200 years almost, and they, I guess, decided Graterford was just too long. That extra S and apostrophe or whatever, I guess just too much for them. So, anyway, so we're here in Graterford, Pennsylvania. This here, actually right where I'm at, the trail, the Perkiomen Trail deviates off of the actual railroad. This trail here was not the railroad. The railroad went straight through these trees here towards 29, but this was where the siding came in, and that's the base of the Graterford Prison Trestle, right there. So this is actually part of the first section that was actually built. Construction of the Perkiomen Railroad actually started in 1867, and by 1868 it had already come through Collegeville and Graterford area heading towards Schwanksville. So so this section here has been here since 1868. Like I said, this is part of the first section of rail. They often say the Perkiomen was built in 3 sections. I mean, technically it was, but they kind of opened up the line a little bit here and there as they went by, even if the whole section wasn't totally done. So anyway, so this is the 1868 section here. This is part here is where it deviate. Like I said, this is just a trail. But if you look up here, up ahead here, you might see cars go by here and there. The actual main line for the perk was through these trees, where you can kind of see up through the woods here where it kind of went. And right about up here, the line actually crossed 29. We're actually just outside of Ron's, right in the Graterford area. But you see the switch was down that way, and it actually crossed, actually the railroad crossed 29 between Collegeville and Graterford a few times actually, depending on how they moved the road a little. It was 2 or 3 times. Rumor has it the road was shifted a little bit, which changed it, but technically, as far as I know, it was 2 times it crossed between Graterford and Collegeville. So this here, like I said, what we see through the woods here is the siding. Down, see the cars go by down there. The railroad actually crossed 29 right in this area, and the siding was down there. I mean, the switch for the siding, and the siding came, and we're going to walk on it, and it went right up here. Now, what I find interesting, although the switch probably wouldn't have been down this way, there'd been no switches. As you often find along the Perkiomen Trail, which was once the Perkiomen Railroad, you will find ties and cement bases, and you'll find a lot of neat stuff along here. A lot of neat remnants of the railroad. If you know where to look, you'll find a lot of stuff. This here looks to be a little bit bigger than a standard tie. this looks to me almost to be a switch timber. The switch ties, because the track getting wider because of the switch and the railroad splitting into the siding to the other switch. Oftentimes, well, every time actually, where the siding was, you had more rail and more width, so you needed wider ties. So, kind of interesting finding these, which I think, because that is longer than a standard tie by a little bit. They started out as a standard width tie, and then as where the switch goes off and the other rail went off to the one side, the ties got longer and longer to attach the rail to. And like I said, this is definitely a little longer than your standard tie. That there, that might be a standard tie, but it's thick and it's oak. And there's another tie back there. So, some of you may have heard of, when I say Graterford, those of you who aren't really in the railroads or know the area well, you may know the word Graterford, because that's where the Graterford State Prison is in Pennsylvania, Montgomery County. Actually, I'm trying to see where the siding would have went, because there's where it goes up onto the bridge. It's still raised up a little bit. I wonder if it would have went over that way a little bit, and it went up there. It's hard to tell without trespassing, but I do know, like I said before, this siding came out, went through here, and connected to the main line. And the main line actually crosses 29 right up there. So, Graterford, home of Montgomery County's correctional facility, was actually built in 1929. It says built in 29. It was probably, I can't find it how long, that's when it was finished. It couldn't have been built in a year, but everything says 1929. And I'm sure most of you have probably heard of Eastern State Penitentiary, that the old Al Capone was there, etc., in Philadelphia, which is a very notorious prison. Well, by the late 20s, it was starting to get a little out of date and a little too small, and it wasn't actually very, even for a prison, it was a bit inhumane. So to move the prisoners from there and for the new prison, they built a prison out here just outside of Ron's in Graterford. And this trestle here was built in 1928. So this was built at the same time. This wasn't built as an addition or later on after the prison. This was built around the same time the prison was being put in. Like I said, we're not that far from Perk Junction, just outside of Oaks. You have Perk Junction, you have Oak Station, you had Yerkes, or Yerkes. Actually, you had Arcola, then Yerkes. Then you had Collegeville, then the Ron Station, and Graterford Station, which is just down that way a little bit. So we're not that far from the beginning of the line. And like I said earlier, this was built in 1868. This is when the railroad reached this part of town. So, and also some places will mention this trestle was built in 28, some say 29. That's the glorious part about the Perkiomen Railroad, is that as soon as you find one, like I've said many times before, as soon as you find one good solid source of information, something else changes it on you. So, but like I said, I think this is most things say 29, which would put it right in the same time frame, 28, 29, when the prison was being built. Now, if you remember my other video, I showed those stanchions in Green Lane, and it had P&RRR on it. Well, I always said that was late 1800s, turn of the century era. Well, if you look here, these are just basically cut angle iron, and this was 1928 circa. So you could tell how they went basic. They went pretty quick. They don't have the stamp anymore. Typical bridge abutment style. Pretty long too. But like I said, you can see these stanchions. You can tell these are newer stanchions. When I say new, I mean like late 20s, because they changed them. It's amazing how much it changed after that. So anyway, so this is now crossing the Perkiomen Creek, which the railroad did a few times. Wow, I see a railroad funny. Jeez, long day. Beautiful out here. I mean, I always say this It's Perkiomen Railroad. What I would give to go back to like 1920s, turn of the century era, and just to be able to just experience the Perkiomen Railroad in its entirety, where it goes along the Perkiomen Creek, the Macoby Creek. I mean, it would, if that railroad was usable and it was intact today, the whole thing. I mean, it's still intact from Pennsburg to Emmaus, but this would be a beautiful tourist line. It would put a lot of tourist lines to shame. Perkiomen was a beautiful, beautiful railroad. So here is, like I said, we're on the Trestle now, walking towards Graterford prison. And like I said, this was built in 28, maybe 29, but you know, history's subjective these days, right? So despite a common lie or misconception, this was not built for prisoners. This was not built to bring prisoners in by train. As far as I know, that never happened, and that was definitely not the reason they built this railroad or built this trestle or this siding into the prison. Basically, during the construction of the prison, or soon thereafter it was finished, they brought in big heaters, big boilers to heat the prison. So all the boilers came in by rail. The coal thereafter to make for heat, for the coal for the furnaces and the boilers were brought in here along with those supplies, paper goods, janitorial, like I said, coal for the stove, for the heaters, for the boiler. So that's what the siding was put in for. Like I said, originally it brought in the boilers, and then it brought in the coal and supplies. It was not built to bring in prisoners. Now if you look down here, that's another trail that was not part of the railroad of any sort. But let me see if I can zoom in here. Maybe you can see the cars over here. That there, if you come to the light there, right at the end, that brings you to 29, right where the station, Graterford station was. And that access road, if you follow it, takes you into the prison. So that takes you to the prison. But like I said, this trail down here is just a walking trail. It was never part of the railroad. So it's a pretty serious trestle for bringing in supplies. But they did things differently, and I figured, you know, basically, I've seen reports that said that they stopped bringing supplies in here around the same time passenger service stopped in July 1955 is when they stopped using the siding. But I've seen photographs that looks like up until right around a little after the abandonment of the first part of the line, there is boxcars sitting on the siding with most likely paper supplies in these boxcars. Because the first section of the line was abandoned pretty much from about not far from here all the way down to Green Lane. It was abandoned in 72, 73. It was put out of service after Agnes destroyed a lot of the infrastructure. So Agnes took out most of it. Didn't take it out, but it took it out of service. And by that point, there was no passenger service anymore. And freight had dropped a lot, mostly because of the ice houses and mills and stuff like that were falling out of favor. So the freight wasn't quite as much either, except it used to have still had the through trains that came down in from down into the city. But the first section of rail was taken out pretty much not far from here, all the way down to Crusher Road in 1975. They were still running down into Schwanksville area and Graterford area. Actually, in the Collegeville down to Ron's and Graterford area down here, they were running that probably up until the late 70s, early 80s. Maybe somewhere around that. They were still running down into that from the other end. And like I said, from Emmaus to Pennsburg, they still run. It's still in service by East Penn Railroad. But yeah, the first section of rail It's always hard to pinpoint exactly where, but we kind of figure somewhere from Springmount down to Green Lane, Perkiomenville area was the part that was taken out of service. And then that was the first section to be removed in 1975. And like I said, it was taken out of service, then it was removed. But they were still running stuff. Like there's a substation in Ron's, and some of the guys down here at the live streamers say they remember them bringing stuff in by rail. Look at deer. See how close we can get. Hey, buddy. He's either going to run or he's going to attack me. Oh, you make great video. So yeah, so there's guys down at the club that say they remember parts of the substation coming in by rail, you know, well after 73. Oh, there's two of them down there, they're kissing. This is how you get distracted on a train video when you're in the wildlife. Bet you weren't going to see that today on the thing about a trestle, huh? Okay. Alright. Gotta focus. So anyway, yeah, this is all stay on trail. This is all prison property. Even though Graterford Prison, they built another prison next door and stopped using Graterford Prison in 2018. I guess you still can't get near it because all this property is all secure. And sometimes when they used to have rifle practice, you could hear them shooting. But video, I don't like to keep these videos much over 20 minutes. I tend to babble. But we're taking the footpath. You can see there's the trestle. I want to shoot up that and show you where the siding went once it went over the trestle. But I just want to get down here and see how much it's kind of grown in now. I want to see how much of the bridge we can see from down here. There was a name on the side, and I feel really ill prepared because I forgot what the name was that was on the side of the bridge. Like I said, this wasn't originally the plan. I was going to do the station, but you can still read whatever that name was on the side of the parts of it. You can kind of read. So we're going to go down here quick and see if we can see it. Sorry if I'm babbling on. Like I said, I wasn't really planning on doing this today, so I'm just going all this off of memory. Trying to add as much content to it as possible because I don't know how much you can add about a trestle that goes into a prison. Although it is interesting. I mean, not a lot of prisons have their own sidings. So we're going to get down here. We're going to go under it and we're going to see what we can see. Like I said, all this, I guess that's technically owned by the prison. And this is not part of the railroad. This is just a regular walking trail. There we go. Now we're down. We're just past the Perkiomen Creek. The creek is right there. This is the part. It's amazing how, I guess because of the elevation of it, they really kept this thing up there all the way, even though they're not even under the creek anymore. They really kept it going until they leveled it out. So, let's see here. Nope. I don't see any. I can't see any of the writing on it. There was a picture where you could still faintly read some of it. Here's your typical construction of the era. I-beam style, large I-beam style. I think it said American something. Wish I would have remembered what it said and why it said it. This is one I feel like I still need to learn more. But that's original from the 20s. Just don't remember exactly what it was. You can see right underneath it, and over there's the creek, that Perkiomen Creek, that it goes over. So maybe if I can remember what name was on here and why. I think it was American something. But you can see back in 2021 we had some serious flooding on the Perkiomen Creek. That piece of wood is more than likely up there. There's other wood up there too. That's how high the Perkiomen Creek was. Oh, gee, they're running trains again. Nah, just a dump truck with an air horn. Guys love playing with them things. And you can see the rest of the trestle. All right, we're going to maybe keep it on for a few more minutes. We're going to get to the top. We're already at 21 minutes, and I had to try not to get them too long, because I know you post a full-length video, it gets like a quarter of the hits that like a short gets. But see, this here says to Skipback Village, quaint little thing of Skipback. There's actually a station called Skipback Station, but that's another debate for another time. So anyway, I say anyway a lot. Anyway, I say it again. I want to get to the top here, and we're gonna take a peek as to where the trestle went and the siding went. But like I was saying, we're down at Graterford right now, and this is the first section of the rail that was done. Came in 1868. Came into this way. From here to Perk Junction, we got Graterford Station, which was right there. Ron Station, which was maybe half a mile that way. And then you had Collegeville. Then you had Yerkes. Then you had Arcola. Then you had Oak Station. Then you had Perk Junction. So, well, we're at 22 minutes. Pretty good. It's just so hard sometimes to film places without lots of people around and lots of noise and pollution and cars. Yeah, that road over there, you can only imagine. Once you come out of that road on the 29, right across 29 and back a little bit was where the Graterford Station was. You can only imagine how many guys came across that road, hitched a train to get out of here, down on the out to Collegeville Station. Getting a little dark, but it looks kind of good. So, like I said, we're just going to go up here. Kind of forget how popular this place is. You can really see the embankment, how high that trestle still was, and how high the embankment was coming off the trestle right up here. It is nice, especially when it's cool out. I've walked most of the trail, not all at one shot, but I've walked most of it at times, at one point in time or another. All right, just a couple more minutes. I'm gonna get up here. The art of trying to video and not get everybody else in your shot. Yeah, so if anybody ever corrects you, you say Graterford or Graterford, you can tell then that it was originally called Graterford, but in the 1950s, the postal service thought it was too long, so they wanted to change it to Graterford. They did goofy stuff like that, like Emmaus, 1 Emmaus, 2 Emmaus. Yeah, the deer's still hanging out. Okay, so here's where the trestle came off into the trestle ended there. the abutment comes up, and straight across here, they must have built that hill up a lot since they took this out, or they knocked some of this down, because this is where the trestle would have come. This is where the tracks would have come from the siding, and there's no way the train's going up that hill. So they must have either leveled it or added to that hill. All right, well, I know there was something else up here of interest that I found one time. I wanted to show everybody, but I can't remember what it was. It's probably also buried underneath the, buried in the weeds. All right, well, I'm going to cut it off here. So, thanks for checking it out and putting up my impromptu video for the week. So, all right, see ya.